All right, good evening, everybody. Today is June the 15th, 2023, and we're here tonight with a brief visit from Chris Hauser. Chris, you there?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm getting a lot of people saying, hey, what's going on with Chris? What's going on with Chris? You know, and I think it's best maybe if you explain it.
Yeah,
tell
absolutely.
your own words.
First off, I'm not dead.
Yay.
Second of all, I'm not in prison. Let me explain that, okay? Because of the Supreme Court ruling, a lot of people think that I think they're just assuming that I was out on appeals bonds. That couldn't be no truer. The sentence was 20 years. I did 3 years. I think I've explained this before in the past. When you get a 10-year sentence, you're looking probably at the most, with good behavior, 3 years. Now, if it's in a federal penitentiary, you're going to do 80%. And they do the federal time is in months, where state time is in years. So I'm not going to say there isn't a chance of me going back to prison, because all they would have to do is revoke it. But they're going to have a hard time with that, because the parole contract was void the day I signed it. I signed it under fraud, menace, duress, and extortion, which voided the contract, voided the parole contract. So now if you want to revoke the parole, you're revoking the parole based on a violation of the contract, which is void anyway. You're going to have to say that everyone involved, including the parole board, was involved in my escaping prison, because I'm not out on parole. The parole contract is voided. And to this day, they've never told me who my assigned parole officer was, and I don't even go to them anymore. I haven't seen a parole officer in, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. I call in every 5th of the month to a automated system where I give them I say five numbers. They got a voice imprint of me when I initially signed up on the thing, or enrolled, or whatever the case may be. So they'll ask me to say a few numbers, and I'll recite the same numbers that they give me, and it checks. And they ask me if I still live where I'm at, and if I'm still unemployed, and have you ran into the cops, and had any run-ins with the cops. And so I haven't even spoken to a live person in 6 or 7 months now. So I'm not going back to prison, at least not by my cause. You know, I'm not going to do any drugs or get any DUIs. You know, they're not going to be able to violate me, because I know the parole rules better than most parole officers do. I had a chance to study those while I was in the prison. So, okay. Next is that I'd like to talk about is the Supreme Court ruling. The Supreme Court, the majority didn't rule in our favor. They actually said that we weaponized the UCC to do what we did. And, I mean, it's funny that the president can weaponize the FBI and everything to do what they've done to Trump. But I can't weaponize the UCC. There's been some changes in that, too. Now, 2 of the 5 justices, they consented in in some of the majority's ruling or decision, but they had a dissenting opinion, and that was Justice Page and Justice Campbell. Justice Page was the elderly woman who Emma Tennant recited one of her cases from 2011, where Justice Page said the UCC ones had no value. So, of course, she's going to write a dissenting opinion to cover her ass. And that was her argument, that the UCC ones had no value. She agreed that they were forgeries, but she disagreed, along with Campbell, that they had value. She also, if you go onto the website and read I think it's an 18-page decision, and then Page's decision was 6 pages, but she actually puts the majority justices on blast. She says things like, there's 2 steps that we have to take to evaluate this point. And she basically said, you guys just skip that first part altogether. So she actually scolded, if you read it, she actually scolded the other justices. So I'm working on a part of the problem, y'all, with this whole case is when we did the conditional acceptance, which is the underlying security agreement that everybody's refused to acknowledge all the way up to the whole appeals process, is that conditional acceptance is the contract. And that's why I'm saying you don't even need to do UCC 1s and 3s. That is the underlying security agreement that you would assign to the Treasury. Now, the problem is every one of these individuals, including my ex-wife, got these contracts served to them via the postal roll, and a lot of the witnesses actually mentioned them. Oh, yeah, I got something in the mail. Oh, yeah, he sent me something certified mail and my aunt signed for it. Now, that's how they knew our addresses, because they got those straight out the gate. Our addresses are on the conditional acceptance. That's how they knew where every one of us lived. But now, say for instance, when they approached my ex-wife or my ex-wife approached them, she said, well, I got this thing in the mail, and she gave it to them. So the TBI had copies or the originals, maybe even the originals of the conditional acceptances that we sent. The TBI had those, which means the prosecution had those, which means the clerk of the court should have had those. That was evidence. The TBI used it as they kept it as evidence, but they would never use it, and that's a crime in itself. They all withheld material evidence in the case. Then they mentioned it when they had them up there talking about it, and not a single one of them said it was a contract. When if you read it, it says it's a contract. I can't think that when this thing first went down, that these judges and lawyers and my ex-wife was probably too dumb to even figure it out. That's how country she is. But to this day, I still don't think she has. She was dumb enough to file it in bankruptcy. So all these people that testified had the contracts. And this is material evidence that was withheld. That's criminal. The judge knew, the prosecutor knew. And I can't help but think the appellate justices and judges also knew about it too. Or that evidence was withheld from them because it wasn't in the case. That's why when you listen to the Supreme Court or watch the Supreme Court, that one justice goes, well, they didn't have any contract or underlying security agreement to lien these judges for $13 million. She might have actually been telling the truth and didn't know. So I've prepared a nice little packet with copies of the conditional acceptance. I also wrote a letter. I wanted it to be brief because I wanted to catch her curiosity, but not overwhelm her with too much information. And I'm sending that off very soon. I've about got it completed. Also, Ron from prison created a 18-page demand letter that he wrote to Justice, the Chief Justice. He wrote a demand letter demanding to be released, and he basically told him that too. So I'm going to make a copy of that and put it in with this and say, look, your Chief Justice got a copy of this letter that a friend of mine wrote. So you say, okay, so where does it go from here? I spoke with Emma Tennant shortly after. As a matter of fact, she called me. She called me to let me know of the decision before I even checked it on the website. And then I was reading it, and I think it might have been you, Tad. Yeah, it was. You called me because one of your listeners called you and let you in on it.
Yeah.
I was finishing reading it when you called me. That's how quick the news traveled. Now, with the Supreme Court, I talked to her. She sounded like she was really tired, but I think she was either putting on airs or she was actually disappointed in the decision. But I talked to her about that, and I said, so where is this you're going to go? Seeing how the state's doing this all on their own, what's the next thing the state's going to do? Are you going to appeal this to the Supreme Court, like you said, like you told me in prison before I got released? I'll take this all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Or was you just bullshitting me? And before she could say anything, I said, look, I've already checked into it. The Supreme Court gets 7,000 cases a year. They only listen to about 100 to 150 of them, which is actually quite a bit. That's like, 2.5 a day. 2.5 cases a day they're reviewing. So that's not feasible. The only cases that they really like to listen to are violations of your rights, of someone's rights, the Constitution. They're a constitutional court, basically. But they only like to listen to the ones that they get a lot of letters from. The ones that are getting the most attention are the ones that they actually do. So that's out of there. And I said, that's off the table. Plus, it's 10 years. Hell, I'll be off parole by the time most of my guys will be dead before they listen to it. So here's where we're at. Even though it was disappointing, it also has its benefits for what had happened, because the Supreme Court, your state Supreme Court, is considered the highest court in the state. Once you go through the appeals process and that decision comes down, you're not in the appeals process anymore. So that means you go into post-conviction. Post-conviction relief is what it's called. Post-conviction relief is based on violations of constitutional rights, and it's also on a lawyer's malfeasance or ineffective assistance of counsel. Now, because the court doesn't want to be in error. The court's saying, "Oh, we're not going to be in error. Let's put it on the lawyers. They're officers of the court. They're our pawns. They're sacrificial. So we'll blame them." So when you file a post-conviction relief, you're filing for two outcomes. One is a reduction in the sentencing, or two is a dismissal of the charges altogether. Now, so the where we're at right now is we're on top of the hill in this ride. We're on top of the mountain. Now it's our turn. I've written about 70% of the post-conviction. I had it written before or shortly after the first appeals court, the Court of Criminal Appeals. I had most of it written then. Ron Lyons, the one who's traffic one you guys are familiar with, he's been writing it too, or what he wants to interject into it. And he comes up for parole next month, and he should be paroled. Once he gets out, we'll be able to work side by side on this, and I'll submit it sometime by the end of the year or the end of the summer. But you got a year to do it, and all the things that went wrong, we weren't given, we weren't shown warrants. We were never given indictments. We can talk about the arraignment, and we say with all of this, we say the lawyer was ineffective assistance of counsel because he failed to mention that we were never shown warrants when we demanded them. We were never given indictments. At the arraignment, we were never told nature and the cause. And that's everything that we can throw the lawyer under the bus for. Not everything, because there's a lot more to it. A lot more things that we could bring up. The lawyer was ineffective assistance to counsel when the judge said, when he told the judge that the whole case was a farce and this was all a star chamber hearing or whatever it was they said, and the judge replied, at least the liens have stopped. He should have objected to that. Well, I object to that. You're just making this all about stopping the liens. They should have said stuff like, wait a minute, according to the United States Supreme Court, you can lien a man depriving him of the beneficial use of his property without any judicial determination or probable cause. So why is this even an issue about this, whether these things are legal or not? And that's the stuff that I mentioned in the post-conviction relief. I'm making this, okay, lawyer, you're gonna fall on your own sword. Get ready, because you're gonna fall deep on this one. And here's what happens. I don't care if she grants it or not. I don't, because if she refuses, and I'll say, look, why didn't the lawyer say there is an underlying security agreement? the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these guys intended to defraud these people by not showing admitting this thing that they say is a contract, and you disagree with it, without entering that in there. Then where's the reasonable doubt? How do you say these guys intended to do this thing when they had contracts loaded with case law saying they can do what they did? I'm going to submit that into the case. This post-conviction relief, when I go down there, I'm going to put the contracts into the case for the first time. I'm going to argue it. The lawyers aren't going to argue post-conviction for me. I'm arguing that. Now, if once it's in the case, whether the judge wants to acknowledge it or not, it's in the case. And then it goes to the Court of Criminal Appeals. If she doesn't give relief, she knows that this is going up now with the contract in it. And we'll let the Court of Criminal Appeals decide whether or not this was an unjust ruling. We'll let them decide whether or not they suppressed the evidence that would have proved our innocence. That's a crime, folks. And this has been a long battle. It sure has. It's been over 6 years. It may be another 6 years before all that. But that's what's going on with that. Now, because of what happened with the Supreme Court, shortly after that, really shortly after that, I got in contact with the Treasury agent, and I was just finishing up the first class, and they told me, they said, look, we don't want you teaching these classes until, actually it was that, and it was it was mostly about the tax court. But that all fell in at the same time. But because of the Supreme Court ruling, and that's still not being overturned, the tax court decided to grant the summary judgment that the IRS wanted. I was fighting, for those of you who don't know, I was fighting a tax court where the IRS took a $4,000 CD. They were saying that these liens was a frivolous filing, and they hit me with 2 frivolous filing charges. So I've been fighting the tax court. I was in early April. I was in tax court, and I thought it was the hearing, but it was just for a summary judgment. That had to do with me not filing the case in within the 30 days that I had when I actually got the letter 27 days after it was dated. So I had like 1 day to figure out how to file a tax case without any information whatsoever. I called that day. I called the tax court to ask them how to go about that, and I recorded the conversation. The lady at the tax court in Washington D.C. said, "Oh no, it's not 30 days. You got 90 days to file that. Here's how you do it. Go to the Dawson website, and it'll explain to you how to do it." So I did that, and the IRS was asking for summary judgment, saying that I didn't do it in the time allotted, and I argued that the tax court told me, and the administrator at the time, his name was Greaves, he said, "Yeah, I read that. I read where you filed that into the case. I'd be interested to know who that was you talked to." So I had to transcribe it, and I sent it to him. That wasn't good enough. He wanted me to send a thumb drive. So I sent that, and the Supreme Court ruling came down, and then the judge in the tax court said he granted the summary judgment. And that was a big deal, y'all. The federal court has already said that the conditional acceptance is actually, in fact, a valid contract because they discharged it in the bankruptcy, my ex-wife's bankruptcy. So I was hoping that I could get the tax court to go, yeah, this is not a frivolous filing. This is actually a genuine filing. That's what would have freed me up for the money to do my own banking. That's what the freeze has been about, waiting on this tax case. And the IRS is dying. They're not getting all the people that Biden wants to give them. They're not getting that. We're about to lose the income tax. That's about to be negated. It's unlawful anyway. Most of y'all know that. So this is the death blows. If you're familiar with astronomy, a sun that's about to explode or die goes into death blows. That's what's happening with the IRS right now and the Federal Reserve. So they're struggling to keep their head above water, and to do this stops the argument that would smash them hard. So I get a call from the Treasury agent, and he said, "Look, man, bad news the last 2 weeks there." So he said, "We want you to stop. Want you to stop teaching, but we've got 5 or 6 people in your first class that we want you to mentor as they teach." I said, "What makes you think I would even be interested in doing something like that when you're telling me I can't do it?" I said, "First of all, I'm starting to not trust you. I think that you guys might be trying to pull a fast one on me. I don't like the way this conversation has gone so far." And I said, "I'm about to cut some ties." And he said, "Look, Chris, we're on your side. I don't know what to say or do that can prove that to you." I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, let me sleep on it. I don't like to make rash decisions hastily. So let me sleep on it, and I'll give you an answer in a day or two." And he called me back like 3 hours later, 2.5, 3 hours later, and he said, "Look, Chris, what we're going to do, we're trying to do down here, is we're going to try and release anywhere from $2 to $5 million of your money to you." He said, "Would that be an incentive to know that we're on your side? We want to work with you?" I said, "It's a start." So the guys, the first class that I completed, their paperwork's all in. About 80% of them were spot on. Yeah, guys, send off your paperwork. About 20%, actually a little less than 20%. Other people needed some corrections. So I worked with them Memorial Weekend and got them straight, and they sent theirs off. Now, those guys, those 26 students should be up and banking by the end of this month. It takes about 2 or 3 weeks to get the paperwork through and get approved. Now, 5 or 6 of those guys I'm going to mentor. So, and part of that deal is I'm going to drop a few people in their classes. So, but the people that I'm going to put in are people that I know are going to be savvy enough to actually teach this when they're approved, when they go through the class, when they're approved by about the end of August.
Chris? Chris, you're breaking up. Chris, you're breaking up. Go. If you moved, go back to where you were.
I'm not moved anything. Can you hear me?
Barely. You've been so clear all night, but now it's just breaking up.
Okay, where did it? Oh.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, it's hit and miss.
Hear me? Let me know when it gets better.
Okay, it's better.
Okay.
Well, it was.
How's that?
Better.
Is that any better?
Oh, yeah.
Better.
Oh, shoot. Dang it.
You hear me?
Okay, yeah, it's like you say, can you hear me? You're clear, you talk, and then you break up.
All right, how about now?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay, where was I at when it started breaking up?
End of August, some people were savvy enough to start teaching or something.
Okay.
Damn it.
These guys...
Yes? Okay, Chris?
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up. Actually, I want you to hang up, and I'll call you right back.
I don't know if that'll do any good. My signal strength is sucking right here, right now.
Okay, actually, you're doing pretty good.
Okay. I'll hold the phone right here for a little.
Okay.
Yeah, my signal got a little stronger right here.
Yeah, there you go.
I hate to do that because I'm holding my phone up in my hand in a certain spot.
Okay, sorry.
Anyway, the first class, there's going to be 5 or 6 guys come out of it that I'm going to put people in. And the people that I wanted in, I'm just not going to be able to put as many of them in because they're only going to take probably 1 or 2 people per class. So there might be 5 to 12 people in all go in that I'm going to pick. That's the only way I'm going to work with these guys. Plus, I want my money. Show me the money. I don't even care. It's not that I really. I want them to give it as proof more than I do as I need some. But I'll take it. So what's going to happen is that class will start at the beginning of next month, and by the end of August, the people that I put in will be ready to not only bank, but they'll be ready to teach. And so I kind of see myself more or less, if I can do one, if I could have done one class at the beginning of next month, that's all I would have is one class. If by the end of summer I've got 10 people that are doing classes, I got 10 classes going on instead of one class going on. So it'd be better to get people educated in the private banking and then be there for them like I'm going to be there for these guys in this first class. I'll be listening in on their Zooms. I'll be available for them to message me in real time. If I'm not on the class, that one of the student teachers goes, I got a question from a guy, or, could you explain this one little thing to me again? Then I could get on with them right then and there. Also, in the next bunch of classes, if there's 5 student teachers and 10 of my people that I drop in, or 12 of my people that I drop in, while they're being taught, they're going to be able to contact me too, where these first bunch of student teachers are going to have students that aren't going to have my phone number. So they'll be my guys that I drop in there, or gals that I drop in there, are going to be more knowledgeable than the rest of the students that are in their class, because I want them teaching when they're out. And then I could do that. That's what I'll do. I may not ever teach again, short of just being there for all the teachers. I'm not going to do a foundation because some of these people can be teaching, some of these people can be teaching before I'm even authorized to bank. So now I'll get into that. Here's why I'm saying it's going to be 4 to 6 months. Because the Treasury want me to take this case from the tax court into a federal court where they have more control over it. Okay. So I'm working with them on that case. I'm going to have 3 cases going by the end of the year. One's going to be with the post-conviction. And then I'm filing a federal lawsuit against the state of Tennessee, the judge, the prosecutor, even the attorney general of the state, filing a federal case on them. And I'm also filing a federal case on the tax court. I can't get into any detail about what I'm doing with these, but I was recently approached by an individual who I conferenced with for about 4 hours there last week, and this guy has got a process that he's working, and it basically, without sharing too much information, because I've been asked to not share this detailed information, so I won't. But basically what it does is it when you file this type of case, it basically makes you the creditor of the case instead of the debtor. So you're actually holding the cards. And these cases that have been filed the way I'm telling you this guy's doing it, there's been quite a few cases filed, and every one of them gets settled. They don't go to, like the case when I open this case up in post-conviction, it's going to be settled outside. This is a win-win thing. The example that he gave me had to do with a father over a child support thing, and it was incredible the outcome that the father had. He even ended up with custody, settled out of court, ended up with custody, custodialship. When this deal was over, there was a large settlement, and all of his child support money was returned to him. So, and that's just one of the cases that I heard about. And
wow,
the more I explained my situation to this guy, crazy knowledgeable. And the guy, he's gotten his stuff. Actually, I think there's a couple guys that's worked with him to get him to where he's at, and they're super smart. All I could do was sit and listen to these guys. I basically, they've been following me. Look, Chris, we've been following you since, we knew you had something. You were on to something when you were in there with this permit board. And the way you talked to those guys and the way you handled that whole situation, we knew you had some kind of insight that you'd be perfect for this. So they reached out to one of our people, and then they contacted me, said, look, there's some guys really want to talk to you. So it's really encouraging, the stuff. The more I explained to this guy what was going on and what had happened, gave him more detail what was going on, he was like putting all this case law out, Moore versus Michigan. It's a 1957 case. If y'all want to read that, it's crazy. It has to do with lawyers, and he told me I needed to read that based on the fact that we never talked to the attorneys. He said that case right there would be enough to shut down what you got going on in Tennessee. Just the fact that all these more violations that they did on you would be enough to shut your case down in Tennessee. So I'm adding that into the post-conviction. And, it's been really fascinating. The people that have shown so much love and reached out to me with different things. I talked to one guy who was, his name is Steve Martin, not the comedian, but the retired NFL player. He's up in Missouri. And he was explaining to me that he got he was in trouble with taxes, I think, and was fighting them. And he got out of the system by arguing the trading with the enemies. And what he did was he changed his name at the state level to the upper and lower case. And then he went to the post office with some paperwork and filed some paperwork at the post office where he became, where he actually taken himself out of the system. But he took himself so far out that he couldn't even work in Commerce.
Yep.
So he screwed himself. And he wanted to know, he explained the process to me. He wanted me to know, how do I get back? He's like, how do I get back into that? I said, well, you still got a Social Security number, right? He said, yeah. I said, there you go. You tell me you can't work in Commerce because of what you did, but look, nobody works in Commerce. Nobody works in Commerce. It's your trustees that do the work for you. Where you screw up is you try and work in Commerce. Don't do that. Let the trustees do it for you. You go to the bank, you cash a check, you sign your name on the check, you give it to the trustee, the cashier. She's your trustee. She's actually processing the commercial transaction. You go into the courtroom. You sign the contract. Well, then your trustees work the commercial aspect of it. You're not doing anything. So that was another interesting conversation. And here's the thing. With the Trading with the Enemies Act, you are considered, United States citizens are considered enemies of the state. The amending that they did in 1935, the enemies of the state is 1917, I believe. And then they amended the act in 1933, making us all, or United States citizens, all enemies of the state. So think about that. If all the courts are admiralty, maritime jurisdiction, and all crimes are commercial, when you go in there to the court, they're working commerce with you. They are actually aiding and abetting an enemy of the state. So think about that next time they try and herd you into their stores, their banks, the courtroom. They're acting in commerce. just the fact that the enemy, you could go in there and say, look, wait a minute. According to the Trading with the Enemies Act, I'm a United States citizen and I'm an enemy of the state. Why are you trying to commercially transact with me? Don't you know that's trading with the enemy? You're trading with the enemy. That's treason. I kind of did that with Tabo when I was in prison. Look, man, tell him there's a war on drugs. There's a war on drugs. I'm an enemy combatant. He could have done that. He could say, look, man, it's a war on drugs. I'm an enemy. I'm also an enemy of the state through the Trading with the Enemies Act. Why are you trying to commercially transact with me? Wouldn't that make you guilty of treason? Trading with the enemy? So, it's been an exciting couple of months since I've been.
Yeah.
The class took a lot out of me, guys. I'm telling you, man. That's the most I've worked since I started all this. Working with this class, it was every night, man, for Monday through Friday, from anywhere from 8 to 8:30 to 12:30, 1 o'clock. It was crazy. And then there was some slow people in the class, and so I started doing a class with them on Sunday night. The Savat was the only day that I actually got a rest. So
are you available to take a couple of questions?
Yeah, I got a little more time.
Okay. All right. Georgia, go ahead. You're in Georgia. Go ahead.
All right, great.
Chris,
how you doing?
You
all right, man.
All right. Quick question. My grandfather was actually a mentee of Charles Lindbergh out of Minnesota. As you know, he was one of the ones that kind of argued against it. Some of the things that my grandfather told me early on, he said you have to get out of the linear thinking, get into the quantum thinking, because he said whatever you think about somebody else tends to reflect back. And he says it's more of a spiritual path, even though the E-state is non-physical and physical. But he says when you think on both sides of the coin, it's more of that George Washington, how do you kill your enemy, you make him your friend. But you do that privately because you become a diplomat. You're basically the go-between between the private and the public. And I was told the reason you can't be too public is because this whole process is basically for people to learn how to forgive themselves, how to forgive others, and to be more humble instead of being in the fighting. Now, I've been on both sides of that. I went to the Air Force Academy. One of my good friends was, chief pilot for a couple of presidents. And I, truly believe, hey, we're here, we're the good guys. But I also have learned sometimes we're so much the good guys, we turn into the bad guys. So with that said, you have some kind of insight based upon your experiences, especially when it goes to linear to quantum physics type stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I know I was into that for a while back. I've seen some videos too. I like watching videos on quantum mechanics and quantum physics, and I get what you're saying. Yeah.
All right. So is that all you wanted to say?
Well, I was hoping for more of an expanded conversation just because the quants are what
I understand.
We're in the hedge fund, but he may or may not be able to speak about it.
Well,
what'd you say now?
My background is I used to work with the hedge funds and I lost $143 million net worth because I went against some of the people above 1600 Pennsylvania. And I was going through what you're going through back, 5, 6, 7, had a heart attack in 09, flatlined. And then I just kind of stayed under the radar. I really didn't teach it publicly because I was having a lot of success, but I found some people were having success with the same process and some weren't. And I was trying to figure out what it was. And the only thing I could figure out was the energy of faith or doubt that somebody has. If they had fear, doubt, anger, and unforgiveness, somehow they self-sabotaged. And if they kind of had that faith and confidence, they somehow walked in I couldn't really quantify that, so that's why I really started to study the quants. And I've got a lot of the quantum mechanic guys that in computing that do stuff on Wall Street, and it's those computers. I mean, those computers really efficiently get the energy right to the solution rather than all the problems and fighting. And that's why I was just trying to figure out what your insight was, especially after these conversations with high-level Secret Service. Because I had some Secret Service friends too, but obviously they can't really tell me much.
Yeah, they can't. But yeah, I get it, man. It's kind of like speaking things into existence, you know. Yeah, it does. It reflects a lot. The energy that you have around you. If it's negative, people get negative. If you surround yourself with negative people, you will become negative. It's good to be, you know, it's good to, you know, recognize that in folks. You got to surround yourself with smart people and energetic. Yeah.
Anyway, so Chris has a limited amount of time, and we got a few people. We're not going to be able to get to all
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about. I know a little bit about hedge funds, but I don't know a lot about it. You know, kind of like crypto. I know a little bit about it, but not a whole lot to get into any kind of lengthy conversation over it.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to Thomas next, 678.
Hi. Top of the twilight there, young man.
657. Go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, Thomas?
Hey, you're alive.
Hey, did you call here? Did you call my phone not too long ago?
Yeah, last
I
night.
thought that might have been you. The number, my phone, I lost all of my contacts again here not too long ago. A good thing I had a backup.
Yeah.
And I had text messages with y'all's numbers on them, and I tried to figure that out. Figure out who was talking with the numbers and getting those back. So how you doing, man?
I'm fine. Just been tracking this W4 sandwich stuff, seeing what the fallout is and what's going on with that. Had some more inroads with CTU in regards to some contacts, you know, up in the Midwest. And so, but I'm glad to hear from you because I got a message about 3 weeks ago that said that you were sitting in a warehouse facility. And so I started looking around, and I spent about, 40 minutes trying to find it. I could not confirm it anywhere, so I asked the gentleman to please provide me with the information, and, of course, he went quiet. So, anyway, without taking too much time, maybe we can chat maybe on Sunday afternoon at 4:30 your time for a brief bit, but I'll let someone else come in. But let you know, I've been following what's going on, and we've had some slow, incremental progress. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Probably not this Sunday. I got a Saturday. I'm taking my family in the camper, and we're going to the woods.
All right.
Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But it'll be in the middle, maybe in the middle of the week sometime.
Yeah,
All right,
Tuesday.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. 808 area code. You're next. Yep.
Hello?
Go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering, what would be the process, how we get chosen to be one of your students in your training for the bank?
Well, what's going to happen there is there are select few individuals that I know that are that I think are totally capable of teaching. I'm not so much in the area of just multiple students to learn this. What I got to do, I see what I got to do because it might be, like I said, it might be 4 to 6 months before I can beat this federal case to where I'm free to bank and I'm, free to teach and by that time there, I might have, because if I have 10 teachers by the end of the summer, September and October, those 10 teachers, I could have 40 teachers. And then by the end of the year, I could have 80 teachers. And that's I think is the best way to handle it. The more people I can get that are capable of teaching this, the more classes will be available. And then at that point, it'll be, who do you know? By the end of summer, there could be a couple of dozen teachers in Tad's group. There could be a couple of dozen teachers in Dave's group. There could be a couple dozen in the veterans Telegram group, Legal IBUS. They could have, and if I've got 80 teachers working underneath me by the end of the year, I'm going to be too busy to teach classes, because I'm going to be helping them. And I think that's the most efficient way to get the most classes available for the masses. Because a lot of you guys, a lot of people aren't going to want a bank. A lot of people are going to just want to know a bank.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Why not just bust out my account? And that's something else that's getting worked on too. How do we do the birth certificate? We're working on that. How to start accessing the birth certificate for the funds that are in it, or how to create a secondary birth certificate based on the first one.
Wow.
Load it with some funds and then start banking, or start accessing it. Have one of these other private bankers help you access that money. You're not going to want a bank. Who's going to want to spend time getting money for other people if you could bust into your birth certificate account and get $100 million out of it? I don't know about y'all, but if I had $100 million that just jumped off into my account, I probably wouldn't be doing nothing but chilling.
Can I ask one more question before you go? I know you're going to have other people probably want to have at you. Are there any specific requirements to be in your class or to be in a banking class?
Well, right now you need to have either have created one of these $100 million bonds, or have a contract with the Treasury. Through the conditional acceptance, or like a lot of y'all have submitted these 1099As. That's what this first class is going to be doing. The first class that just graduated at the end of last month, they're going to be working on all those 1099As that we've managed to load the Treasury up with. A lot of folks have done them. For houses,
Chris,
cars, or whatever.
But I haven't done. I have one created. I have a conditional acceptance, but I didn't send it in. And how will you know if should I send you a copy in order to qualify for the class, or just have it in there and there's a record of it?
You have to. What you have to do is do the conditional acceptance, and then you have to assign it to the Treasury. You have to create a contract with the Treasury. Once you create that contract with the Treasury, 65% of that money they owe you. And once you have that owed to you, then you've made yourself a secured party creditor, which means that you're a creditor. You're a creditor to that money. That's how you go. That's how you get it.
Okay.
That's one of the best ways to get it. But like I said, in 3 or 4 months from now, you might be able to. It might be as simple as a 3-step process with a birth certificate to create a huge bond that you could have the Treasury. Because remember, Janet Yellen is your trustee in the Treasury.
Mm-hmm.
Create the bond, give it to the Treasury, and then tell Janet Yellen, hey, trustee, I need some money. Well, okay, how much do you need? You know what I'm saying? It could be that simple in a matter of 4 to 6 months from now. I don't know. That's kind of the side process we got going on at the Treasury.
But the best way is to get the conditional acceptance in.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a good night.
727 area code.
Hey, Ted. Hey, Chris. How you guys doing?
What's going on? What's your question?
This is Dan from Costa Rica. I'm back. I went back home last November to lick my wounds because we didn't get things done and got all delayed and everything. And I guess the $1 million question is how soon, I know you kind of touched on it, but how soon is somebody going to be able to get with a banker and get some relief? If I have to go home this time and lick my wounds, I'm kind of toast. I've kind of stuck my neck out a couple of times. It's not your fault. Man, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. But what would be your recommendation for somebody who really needs to get some access? And even if it's just enough to take the heat off of me and let me get my life together. I'd like to be in one of the classes, but I don't know if it's going to happen. And I don't know. You've probably been harangued with this question a bunch. Ted's been great, and you always are. So what do you think? What should I do?
So, that's probably a basic question on everybody's mind, Chris. So when these guys are ready, how do you connect with them?
Well, most of y'all are going to connect through, like you guys are all up on Tad's group. I'm going to try and get people in this next class that's coming out, the 10 or 12. I'm going to try and get a couple of them in each person's group. At that point, they'll come on Tad. They'll come on Tad's show. Or they might not come on the show and have him put it on the YouTube channel, and just let it be for you listeners, because they may not want that kind of information out there. But you guys will be able to come on. Tad will be able to send you an email. Hey, I got one of the bankers on. Y'all roll up in here, and you can start talking to them about it, because they're going to be the ones that are going to do that. I don't foresee those. Let me call them my student bankers, my student teacher bankers. When they roll out at the end of August, they'll be calling me when they're teaching their classes. Hey, man. So I wouldn't doubt it if you guys jump in one of those classes, and I'm on it. I'm jumping in on your 4-hour Zoom meeting. Maybe not all the time, but every once in a while. Hey, man, how's it going? You guys got any questions? You know what I'm saying? I'll be like a guest on your Zoom conference or call conference or whatever. However you guys choose to do that. But I'll be in and out of those classes. They'll have my ear. My student teacher bankers are going to have my ear, but that probably isn't even going to start till sometime in September, maybe. But it's kind of like that old commercial. She told 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. That's the thing. Every 2 months, this thing should grow exponentially every 2 months.
Right. I'm sorry to be interrupted.
Yeah, I'd like to say that it'd be pretty wide open, and eligibility will be pretty quick by the end of the year. Starting in the next year, there should be 80 to 100 teachers out there teaching this.
Wow.
You know, and if they're taking on 25 students, you know, it should go pretty quick. And the thing about that is these student teacher bankers that I'm going to be putting out, a lot of them are going to create foundations. That's why I decided not to do one myself, because I think it'd be better if there were multiple foundations out there to give people better options. And I could still be connected with most all of them, you know. But
yeah,
I'm going to be busy. It's crazy busy when you do this. I feel for these people who are going to start teaching, because it takes a lot of your time. It really does.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm in the veterans group over there, and the trustee group, and I've got a bunch of beneficiaries, and these people are looking at me. Well, we've talked about it before, and you know, they're starting to leave me like, "Yeah, Dan, you're nuts," you know, and stuff like that. But I'm just, like I say, just trying to answer the questions. If I have to go back to Costa Rica this time, I'm pretty well toast. I'm just trying to figure out what to do. So, but thanks for anything you do. I appreciate it. And Tad, thanks for being patient with me. I think I called and woke him up one day, and I felt really bad about that. So, so
right,
you guys have really...
You guys just need to pray, man.
Yeah, I've been doing that.
There's nothing better than that. I do it all the time. You know, it's something that takes up my time too. You know, you got to pray, man. You got to pray for yourself and what it is the Creator wants you to do, and you got to pray for others, man. Pray that you get the insight that you need. The Most High is generous when it comes to knowledge. All you got to do is ask. A lot of that stuff can be solved. I'm hoping by Halloween that the VA, that the Treasury is wide open on this birth certificate thing. If that's going to happen, you won't even need to go banking. You'll be able to tell your beneficiaries you're working with, hey man, better yet, here, hand them a package. Say, go read it, and go do it. Go get your money, because you guys know that. You've heard of the saying, "You're worth your weight in gold."
Mm-hmm.
That's what your birth certificate is. It's gold. It's a gold bond. All right. They attached a certain amount of. It's probably your weight when you were born. Yeah, I was 7 pounds 6 ounces. 7 pounds 6 ounces of gold.
Your weight when you were born.
Probably.
Right.
That's probably how it started.
So Chris, we got room for one more call. And
Hey, you guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Tad.
Oops. Sorry. Okay. Last call of the evening. 267 area code.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Tad. Hi, Chris. It's Mary Pierce, a.k.a. Ginger Snap, the truck driver.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
I'm glad Steve Martin was able to get a hold of you. I really thought you two needed to speak, so I put him in touch with Tad. And I sent Tad the link of the decision 45 minutes after it got posted. That was me, too.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for everything you're doing and your patience and all this work that you're putting in. Any word? So you said the first class coming out, a good chunk of them are going to be working on the 1099As that have already been filed in the last couple of years.
Yeah. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it one bit if by the end of August they've worked off most of those. From what I understand, two of the guys that are coming out as bankers are going to be just working with the Jareds.
The Jareds?
Yeah, you know the Jareds. They've got thousands. They've turned in thousands of them. And they're going to work with them to get 2 of them have been assigned to the Jareds.
Yeah, I heard the Jareds filed 4,000 1099As.
Yeah.
Online.
There's a lot of them. That's a lot of them that's going to need to be cleared up.
If we're interested in the classes and becoming a teacher, if we're connected with TAD, is that the best way to stay in the loop for when you're ready to pick someone? Because I myself am also interested. Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'm in touch with TAD, so if that's all.
Yeah.
And you guys
stay with you have the right.
Don't be sending me emails or calling me up. When it's ready, I will send out an email through my information system.
Yeah.
And go join my mailing list if you want that. So
I did TAD email. Okay, TAD.
Yeah, that's how it's gonna go down. I'm going to place people that I know, and if I don't pull them out of TAD's pool, I'll put them in TAD's pool.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'll say, look, I want you two to go over to youhavetherright.com and email TAD, let them know who you are, and TAD at that point, or I'll call TAD and I'll say, look, I sent to them your way. Here's their emails. Forward them to him or whatever. So that TAD will have, he'll be on speaking terms with the teachers. That way, when they start pulling you all in, you guys can have one big conference call, and they can introduce themselves, and then you guys can start submitting, yourself to their class, and they might not get you in the first class, but they're going to get you in.
Right.
That's the whole idea of this, is to get you guys educated to bank and potentially be teachers yourself.
Great.
Look at y'all. It is really not that hard. Most of the people that had trouble with this last class, they were linear thinkers, and they were eggheads. They were by the book, a lot of book smarts and no common sense. Those are the people that have the most problems with this. I've refined it. I've refined the class. There was a lot of stuff that I would teach, and then a week later, I would teach something that was related to the thing I taught before. And they would get confused. And then I'd have to revisit the thing from the week before and say, see how this works? Well, I've kind of worked that around and refined it to the point where I can say, go back and look at your notes from this, okay, and tell them that beforehand, so that when you're or revisit it and then educate on it to make it more understandable. So I've worked on that since all this stuff ended, the class ended. I've worked on how to make that better, so when they start teaching, I can go, hey man, here's the new thing. Check this out. The 5 or 6 student teachers that are coming out of this first class, I may even spend a week briefing them. I might bring them into a small conference and go over the classwork again, but taking stuff out and have it rearranged a little bit to where they can teach it in less time, because you can reduce 2 weeks of paperwork down to 6 days if you do it right. So I'm hoping by the time the end of the year comes, it's not an 8-week course anymore. We've got to wait 3 more weeks.
Yeah, which is a long time. Regarding the $100 million bond on your birth certificate, I actually know somebody who did that, I think back in 2010 or 2011. But the only thing they were able to do was to, like, discharge about $3 million worth of debt, and then he walked away from it. Does that position that person, like, to get sort of to the head of the line to be involved in some of this? Like, if that happened 10 years ago, isn't that money still sitting there, and has they not hypothecated it at this point?
It should be.
So
it's probably worth more than the $3 million they discharged. That's probably all been replaced.
So if he wanted to revisit that as part of his private banking,
if he's already hit that, that's a potential. That's a potential to use as the backing for their bank.
So how would
anytime you can get
it's not
Treasury,
me, but how would that person? Should I put that person in touch with Tad?
Yeah, that would be the thing to do. I mean,
okay,
when it's time,
I'll do that.
Because any time you can get the Treasury owing you money, it changes the whole scenario. You're now a creditor. You're not a debtor anymore. They consider you a debtor, even though we know we're creditors. Knowing that there's an X amount of dollars that they owe you is the key. That's the key to being able to access it, but use it as you're not really. I'll never access the money that's in the trust. I will use it. I will use it to ensure people that I secure loans for, and then when
I still want to buy that tractor trailer.
Yeah.
I got big plans.
All right. So does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, both.
All right. Thank
Tad
you.
and Chris. Bless you.
All right.
Thank you. All right, Chris. I think that's going to do it for tonight.
Yeah, buddy.
Unless you got something else that's on your mind.
No, not really. I got to get up here, and my wife just sent me a message. We got to run my daughter's shirt to town. She left her. She works at Dollywood. She's runs the Wild Eagle scary roller coaster. Do you like roller coasters?
Nope.
That's a scary roller coaster right there.
Nope. I got the crap scared out of me when I was about 6 years old, and I said I ain't doing that no more.
Yeah, I'll ride them when they're new. Every time they're new, I'll ride them. But then after that, I don't want to ride them. It's funny. I've rappelled out of pitch blackness and out of a Black Hawk down through oak trees and stuff, and I've jumped out of airplanes and with the ground rush and all that, and not a bit of problem. But man, them roller coasters, man.
All right, so hang on, Chris. Hey, everybody, thank you very much for joining. I'll have this up on YouTube within a couple days. And we appreciate you joining us. And Chris, thank you for taking the time to come brief people. So,
yeah, man.
All right, everyone.
Peace and blessings.
Good night.
Peace and blessings.